for popcorn and managed to connect with Denny. Thank you so much, Denny. And Denny doesn't need any introduction. He's the person, I've personally followed him for last 12 years before I started Milestone, and a lot of credit goes to Denny and all the awesome things I have learned and our staff have learned.
Credit for doing it for 12 years. There's not that many people who can say that.
Yep, and all white hat SEO.
Yeah.
So, Denny, few quick things I like to ask you. What are some of the trends you felt really worked this year for small businesses, hotels, across all the channels, social, local, paid? What are a couple of things you can say? And
I mean, I can tell you some of the things that have stood out for me, and some of them may be applicable to the smaller businesses or locals or whatnot. Certainly, I think a lot of attention on the couponing that's been going on, watching Google come in with Google offers. There's a whole local aspect to that. I think it was last week they rolled out the tool where if you actually have your Android phone on, it'll tell you some of the offers that are available. I noticed that I think I was on Foursquare.
yes.
And I was at a restaurant and I put it on, and when the specials come up, and I actually needed to get my hair cut. I wasn't in a place I was nearby normally,
yes.
but I had some time.
And they tweeted about that yesterday.
Yeah, and it was, oh, did they really?
Yes.
But I mean, it worked. I went in and I got my hair cut from the place. Now, the downside is I probably won't go back there again because it's not normally in my area, but there are places where this is a new way of reaching out to people, because turning on your phone, letting it figure out where your location is a search, even though you didn't enter any words. So I think it's worth it for people to pay attention to those sorts of things. This year, of course, we saw these changes with Panda where there was the effort to try to reward content more, and I think that's something that's applicable for everybody to keep in mind. But just last week, we had this change that came out about freshness, that Google already tried to reward fresh pages, now they want to reward them even more. And a very easy way for people to have fresh content, of course, is the blog. And so I think that, if you still haven't done a vlog at this point, first of all, you're kind of crazy. But secondly, you should really be...
Repeat that again,
yeah,
please?
well, I mean, it was 2005 when people were talking about whether or not we should have blogs. At this point, the assumption is you do have a blog. What you're asking is, oh, should I be on Foursquare, right?
Yeah.
Blog, asking whether or not you should have a blog is like still asking whether or not you should have a website. You shouldn't be asking that. It allows you a way to reach out to your customers in a more informal manner without necessarily trying to sell them directly, and it can work for people, and it can feed into the social media channels that you're going to do, because you have a blog, and that's sort of the foundation for all the other things you do. The blog post turns into the Facebook post, turns into the Twitter post, turns into a Google Plus Pages post, it goes on from there. So, why wouldn't you do it?
So, you talked about blog, and that's such a near and dear concept to me, because that's, again, a freshness of content. And lot of big brands, they are still against blog, because I understand it's very hard to have uniformity. Would it be okay if you have a blog on a separate domain? What is the value? Where is value given more? If it's part of the same domain as a subdomain or a separate domain? What is your take on it?
Well, it's going to be its own thing with its own homepage. Whether you want to do a subdomain or want to put it within the main domain, to me, it's not that much of a difference. I think that, the conventional wisdom is, if you're hoping for it to be more successful and rank better, you're probably better off putting it within a site, company.com/blog. It's a very common convention. People know where to look. But it is very common also to see blog.company.com, and they do just as well. So, I wouldn't let that be so much your sticking point as much as just getting it going.
Yeah. The reason I asked is, if there are very strict corporate guidelines that you cannot have a blog on company domain, then you can still do it as a separate domain.
Sure.
But in my opinion, having social media presence is not that important until you have a platform to sit on. So once you have a blog, you have platform to sit on, and you're bringing everything to one platform rather than having something on Facebook and no home to get traffic to or get conversation to.
You could do social media without a blog, but I think it makes your job a lot easier. And I think that if you are doing social media without a blog, why aren't you doing the blog? Right? I mean, the stuff that you're sharing on the social media things, a lot of times those are blog posts themselves. So why not do the blog post, have your own domain, have your own home, have your own social area, in addition to leveraging the social areas that other people have.
Awesome. So I have two quick questions. What do you think is the future? Next year, 2012, what are 5, 6 key resolution you would say for small businesses? Because advertising dollars is thinning down, local is strong, social is strong, paid is again always strong. So where do you think people should really focus? What should be the good mix of their strategy?
I think that they should be looking at Foursquare. I think that has continued to emerge and grow. So if you haven't been doing it, I think you should get on the service and use it to understand it more. And perhaps, certainly do the things that are available to you as a merchant and maybe experiment with it. I think that you should create a Google Plus page. They're brand new, they're
Google
open,
Plus
and I think you need to have those in addition to your Google Places page for your business. And if you haven't got your Google Places page for business, then you definitely need to be doing that in addition to it. I think that doing the social media stuff, if you haven't done that already, Facebook and Twitter, those are key things to be doing as well. I think that you might consider whether or not there's some video content that you could be doing if you haven't. It doesn't have to be hard, and there's ways you can do short tours or introductions, and it gives you another opportunity.
And post the video content on YouTube and
I would certainly put it on YouTube because there's so many people that are over there. It is a search engine of its own. And even though you can do a search on Google and search at YouTube and other places, there are people who go just YouTube directly. And so, if you don't have your content there, it's not going to be found in that way. So that's one thing I'm looking at. So that's a bunch of tips.
So last question. There was an article on Search Engine Land about press releases, and I think Chitish did try to ask Amit about press release. But really what we were trying, I think somewhere it said that search engine devaluated PR Newswire, but they have given more value to CNN and AOL. And whole idea is that if you're doing a press release, either put a rel author tag on your pages to make sure it's the original content. If you cannot edit it, then maybe different, because it's all of a sudden taking out that service is really hard. What is your take on it? What is the right way to ensure as a business I have right press release, I am the author, I'm getting credit for my press releases, and if I do use PR distribution sites, I'm using it properly without getting penalized?
Well, I think that if you're using a press release service, your primary reason for using it is you're trying to spread the word. So you want to use a service that you think is going to get the word out. Now, a lot of people are using them just because they figure, hey, I'm going to get some search engine benefits from that. To me, that's your secondary reason for doing it. Right? But you're hoping to do that. I would use the ones that are allowing you to have the straight links that are in Google News, and even if they're being penalized or whatever, they, to some degree. I think that came about as part of Panda, where Panda found that, wow, these sites have less visibility. But it's not like they just disappeared. It's not like they weren't getting counted. It's just that maybe their content isn't doing as well as it did in the past. But so, a press release is meant to go all over the place. The best thing I would advise is if you're going to do a press release, put it out on your own site as well. Because I encounter that all the time where I'm trying to point to the canonical main press release, and I can only find it on Business Wire. I can't find it on like Yahoo, for example. So you should have a place on your site, if you do press releases on a regular basis, where you post your own press releases.
And should you put a rel equal author tag there to make sure this is the original content, and then send it to newswires and press?
I would, although you're not going to necessarily be able to have that for all. I mean, you probably can't say to a press release service, and make sure you do rel canonical cross domain back to my. They're not up to that point.
Right.
But if your own domain is strong, then it may pick up with you in that way.
So do it on your site first, maybe wait some time, then send it to newswires or wherever you are sending, and that shouldn't really have any problem because it's a boilerplate information, so I don't think.
Press releases, I'm not really thinking people are thinking I'm going to get a lot of traffic off of that.
It's just an additional service.
Yeah, and like I said, most people seem to like them because they figure, hey, this is a way for me to quickly get a bump in Google News because I don't have a news site of my own, right? Or maybe I'll get a link that might help me in some ways because they get replicated. And those are useful things too, and reasons why you may want to consider it.
You're welcome.